know that I am not living for Bronwyn, Angie, or Whitney, which is making watching this show very infuriating. And if you look at my tweets, you will know exactly how I feel. But I just decided before I did this video that I would take a different approach because I try to see both sides. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Hello friends, we are here to discuss the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So we start with the episode. I'm trying to turn my chair, sorry. We're getting the aftermath of the party or whatever. My whole thing is like, and I'll just get into this right away. Obviously, Lisa came up and she was in Justin's space. And, you know, we all have our right to feel however we feel about that, especially Justin, because he's in the situation, so fine. I feel as though Lisa went over there because her husband was standing directly next to him and she was going to go that way anyway. And since Justin was over there, she was addressing him. Does it make it okay to address him? No. But I don't take it as, because later in the episode, Justin's like, you know, Lisa was coming at me and getting in my space. I don't think that was the intention, but, you know, those are his feelings, valid. She did get in his space, and so he has a right to feel however he feels. However, he was extremely aggressive, and I like that John had the language to say that, like, and he was kind of not necessarily going around it, but he was not necessarily saying it directly at first, because he's like, what bothered me was that Justin got mad very quickly, and I agree, because what I was saying in my last review is the way that he got mad made it seem like he didn't like Lisa, which is also fine, but this is built off of any dislike for Lisa that Justin has is built off of her relationship and what's happened with Whitney. That's women's business, and I don't agree that Justin should be in it. You can support your wife and defend your wife, but to take on those feelings necessarily, I get being like, I don't really care for her because she, you know, does weird stuff with my wife, but to have the type of dislike for a woman as a man because she's beefing with your wife and like your level of dislike for her is that you're going to get aggressive, I think that that's weird, you know. So I think there's a fine line there. Like, obviously he's going to conflate, well, I was sticking up for my wife, but you were also being aggressive. So having a feeling is one thing, but how do you respond, right, is what we're talking about. So that's what happens, and that's what's going to lead us to this episode. I wanted to get that out and be clear. So, you know, when they started the episode and Whitney's like, Lisa charged at my husband, I'm like, girl, nobody charges your husband. She's just so good at, and I'm just going to say it, like, Whitney just gives me the worst Karen type of characteristics. Like, she is such a, like, I don't even know. She literally just inflames things with her words just for the sake of doing it. She enjoys it. It's weird. And also, since I didn't touch on it, we're watching it happen, you know, we get the continuation of the party, and there's a point where Mary sang a prayer, and she says, Lisa, go hold Whitney's hand, which she did. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then, of course, there has to be, because Lisa doesn't stop. You know how Lisa is. So she has to still keep talking about it after the prayer. And her and Whitney, obviously, they're not going to have an amicable conversation, but at least they were having conversation. Who knows where it was going to go? But at least they were having further conversation after agreeing to hold hands. That's a step, in my opinion. So I do think it was inappropriate at that point for Justin to jump in and say, well, why are you calling her a liar? Because now you're in it again. No, he's not being aggressive, but it's just like, now you've gone out of your way to address her, and now you're in the wrong. So I don't think there was anything wrong with John jumping in there. I thought it was just so lame, though, and just like, it really shows how Justin and Whitney are perfect partners, because to even be a person of dignity and get on camera and think that the scene that's going to be so T for you is you pouring out Lisa and John's liquor, I just thought that was so lame. Like, you don't have to like them, but like, you're not making a point by pouring out their liquor. It looks dumb. And honestly, Whitney wasn't even on brand with it. It just looked lame. But obviously they're having a conversation about it. I didn't necessarily expect the amount of dissonance that was going to be from the perspectives between Justin and John. But John is saying, you know, he's still down to move forward. And it's weird because Justin, again, very much so like Whitney, is saying, yeah, John's never done anything wrong with me. I am, you know, wanting to have a friendship with him. But then he's also like, but I'm mad at him, but I want to be mad at him. Like, that's that weird stuff that him and Whitney do. It's like, are you going to try to move on or are you not? And it's one thing to like still have a feeling about something. Like, you can move on and still have feelings about it. But I just don't agree that Justin's feelings are rooted in anything. I'm sorry. I don't. I think that he's inflaming them, just like his wife, for the sake of inflaming them, for dramatic effect. Because Whitney even says just like the dumbest things to me with no context. Like, you know, I think that Lisa got angry and wanted to fight with me to deflect from what was going on. I just don't feel like that's rooted in anything. It sounds dumb to me. Like it sounds like something Whitney just pulled out of her ass. And obviously, I just don't think that there's any moving forward for Lisa and Whitney, because Lisa's like, well, girl, I don't even know why Whitney thinks I give a damn about her jewelry. I don't care. Like, girl, you're making this a thing because you want to make jewelry sales. Like, you're trying to start drama to put eyes on your jewelry. Now that makes more sense. That's rooted in something, because that's the type of stuff that Whitney does. She makes drama out of nothing. I said that when we got here. We move on. We get this scene of Brittany and Heather. And I'm like, okay, well, finally, like, I thought y'all were supposed to be friends. And, like, hello, like, let's see them interact. And I thought it was nice. I'm into the Britney storyline. Like I told y'all, I just am. Like, I'm invested in her. Not necessarily the relationship part, but I like her. She entertains me. And I like that Heather's like, girl, I love you, but I'm going to give it to you straight. Like, you're doing stupid things. And we keep having the same conversation over and over and over. And I can appreciate Brittany staying true to herself and saying, well, girl, that sounds condescending and that's hurtful. Like, you know, have you ever been in a situation before? Have you ever loved anybody before? And Heather's like, girl, I've been in a toxic relationship before. Yes, yes, I have. And it ruined my life. So I think that I'm appreciating seeing this because it's just very real to me. We've all had these talks and we've all probably been on both sides of these talks. And I'm appreciating Brittany still, like I said, being truthful, but it seems like she's listening to Heather and she's taking the notes. What's going to happen with said note? But I also understand, I love that we got the context. And I'm honestly like, why is she not a housewife? But I'm not going to push housewives on those shows. We're doing well. Let's just leave. Let's not, let's leave well enough alone. So fine. She's a friend, but I think she's contributing well. And it's interesting to get the context. You know, she's lonely. Her girls are off at school. Her mom passed. Like, that helps round out that character. Or with BRONWYN and her husband, which I think is nice. Like I told you, I'm trying to be impartial this review. But I think it's nice because I really was wondering, like, how much of him are we going to get? Obviously, he travels to New York 3 days a week. And so we get this scene of her showing up to the airport to pick him up in costumes. That's fun. You know, I could have been a hater because I'm not really feeling her and been like, girl, that's lame. But it's fun. It brings a fun conversation piece to the story and to the show. So fine. They talk about this upcoming, I believe it was 10-year anniversary party that they're going to have the next week. Well, I guess it was supposed to be a party, but then it turned into a trip, obviously. I don't know. But she, for some odd reason, in my opinion, starts reading Brittany, and he kind of joins in on the cackle. And they're talking about Brittany having 2 men and it being a mess. And while it's funny, and it has they got some kikis in there. I'm just not understanding where it's coming from. But fine, she says she doesn't want to invite Brittany. I'm like, okay, girl, what'd she do to you? But whatever. And then of course she gets on the Heather thing, and she's like, I'm not sure about Heather. We'll get to that. And then they start talking about her daughter's thing with her father's family, and like I said, I don't really have too much for that storyline, but it was interesting to see her husband like getting upset, and he just really wasn't trying to have the conversation. So I was more so thinking of it from production standpoint, like this is obviously a real situation that's really affecting him, but she has to talk about it on camera because this is her job, and he did the best he could and he got out. So that's more so what I was invested in. Gonna be honest, I had to run downstairs and get a package when Lisa sat with her sister, but by the time I came back, I don't feel like I took that long. We had already moved on to the next scene, so I'm assuming there was nothing substantive there, but I guess let's play a game and you guys put in the comments what happened. But I do think it's interesting that Lisa has all these sisters, and there's 6 of them. Like, I would just like to see more of that. That's all I got. Angie, Whitney, and BRONWYN, and I'm just like, okay, like we already know what's coming in this scene, very predictable. But I'll say there were some nuances. Right out the gate, Whitney's like, I think that Lisa owes my husband an apology, Lisa and John. And and Angie, this is the nuance that I was surprised about. Angie's like, well, do you think maybe she thinks the same thing? And that makes me start thinking like, okay, is Angie back to reasonable land, right? Because she was there, and I think anybody with eyes can see that they both contributed to that situation and different things happen. So I think it's absurd that Whitney would think she's going to get an apology from Lisa and not be giving one out. So I'm wanting that to be where Angie is at, but she just like she tends to, she loses me. We do find out from Whitney that John had texted Justin the day before and invited him to lunch, so I guess they're going to have a conversation. So Interesting. Whitney's back on her whole thing about Lisa, and she lies, and she's like, well, I just wanted to get some clarity from Lisa. Like, girl, that's not how you approached that at the party. It was very accusatory, and it was a very like, aha, I got you type of moment. It wasn't like a, hey, Lisa, can I talk to you and get some clarification? Stop lying. And Bronwyn, she's like, yeah, I am trying to figure out, like, so what? Like, why do you think that it's Lisa? And I'm like, oh, we're gonna get some receipts. We're gonna get some information. And she says, oh, we narrowed it down and it was Lisa. Oh, okay. And where Angie lost me, we foreshadowed. She's like, well, yeah, I don't want to believe it, but when Lisa gets mad, she does do things like this. Like, you become her worst enemy. And again, I'm like, where's the proof? Because them talking about what Lisa does to them when something happens, to me, is rooted in just so much delusion and confirmation bias. Like, I feel like they just, like I keep saying, they very much so inflame things and make them, they so I'm like, what has she done? Tell us what she's done. And it's interesting and almost wanting to be promising that Bronwyn is just not buying it. And she does say in her confessional, like, this doesn't have me questioning my friendship with Lisa. Like, she's Lisa. You gotta accept her for who she is. So that's a point. But Whitney, like, I cannot stand this. And I've said this 1,000 times. Like, don't go outsell somebody else to somebody. Like, you don't have to go to Lisa's friends to try to convince them not to be friends with Lisa. That's weird. Like, and it's blatant. Like, saying like, oh, well, when she gets upset with you, she's gonna treat you totally different. Shut up. It just looks so desperate and so weird. So we then find out that Bronwyn is throwing a couple's trip, and she tells them, just like we already talked about 2 seconds ago, she's not going to invite Brittany. Nobody really questions it. Stop doing that to my girl. And then she brings up the whole Heather thing. And Angie almost, again, is reasonable. And she's like, well, I think you guys could be friends. But then she also says she really feels like Heather doesn't see the both sides and everything, and she's just going after Lisa. And I'm just like, on your, like, just blatantly, it's so childish. Like, somebody else is agreeing with the person that you're in an argument with, and you feel like just because you have a friendship with them, they have to give you some type of a point. There is no point there. Like, Lisa didn't do anything to Angie. Lisa didn't do anything to Bronwyn. Heather didn't do anything to Bronwyn, and we're gonna get there. So it's just this running theme of Bronwyn and Angie thinking that Lisa has to give them, like, they are deserving or something from Lisa. Same as Whitney. That's why they're all together. Dumb and Dumber. So Angie and Whitney go to Brittany's prayer party. I was wondering why we really, no disrespect, but I was wondering what was the purpose of us seeing this. I was wondering if, because obviously with the Mormon church, they talk a lot about, like, disconnecting from it on this show. So I was wondering if Brittany was going to bring in the perspective of, well, this is a positive experience of the church. This is what we do outside of the church when we come together. I was wondering if it was that, and it could have been that, but they didn't blatantly say it. So, but I mean, they're there, and I do think it was also an opportunity for Heather and Angie to be in the same place. I did think it was weird when Angie brought the wine. That's not going to be a serious thing, I don't think, but I thought it before it was even said. Like, girl, you bring a wine to a Mormon event? A prayer event. So they start having a chat, and Heather's like, girl, I got so much to tell y'all. Like, Bronwyn invited me to her house tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, they're going to have a one-on-one before the trip. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. And Angie said the same thing she said to Bronwyn. She's like, I feel like she wants to be friends with you. And she's like, my experience with Bronwyn has been totally different. She's been very straightforward with me. And Heather's like, well, are you sure she's not, like, schmoozing you? And I'm like, wow, really good characterization. Because Bronwyn gives me that. And again, y'all, I'm not blindly, Heather has just barely, I couldn't even say Heather won me over. I was very sick of Heather at a point for a while. But I'm just tending to agree with her quite deeply. And Angie just does highlight, I'm liking to get this context, to be honest. She does highlight that her issue is, well, Heather should have come to her and, told her, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that about Lisa, instead of directly going to Lisa. Fine. I think that there is a point there to be had, but I don't think that it should be used as an excuse and to negate what you said, because you still said it and it was still wrong. So, like, blaming Heather for how she carried the message, I think is deflection. I think it's irrelevant. Like, you still said it, but I'm willing to give her that point, because Heather could have had a conversation with her, but I still don't feel like it's bad that Heather told Lisa. I don't. But I can understand how she feels. But Heather basically says what I said. It's like, girl, you said what you said, and I gasped. And she does say that she said, don't mom shame her, but we didn't get that receipt, so I don't know if that really happened. But she's like, girl, like you said it, like it is what it is. And she's like, I don't get it. Like you said it, and I told Lisa exactly what you said. Like I don't know why that's an issue. And Angie gets to her sandbox thing of like, well, you have her side, but you're not maybe looking at my side and telling her. Like, do you tell her that she can be a better friend to me? And she's like, well, give me some examples. Like, girl, give me some context and maybe I'll be able to do that. Like, it doesn't, if somebody comes to you, they didn't even come to you. Angie, you did this in front of Heather. Heather saw it for her own eyes. Some weirdness that you did to Lisa. And she went and told Lisa about it. She can't just pull something from the sky and say, hey, Lisa, but also you probably should be a better friend to Angie. Maybe that's why Angie called you a bad mom. That's ridiculous. So Heather's 1,000% right when she says she's missing the mark. But at the end of the day, I get it now. Angie just is, and I think she means well. I swear I do. I just think she is in La La Land. She just wants to be able to hear that somebody gave Lisa a note as well. That's it. She wants to make sure if people are giving her notes, people are giving Lisa notes as well. That's it. So they kind of squash it, and Heather says what I probably would have said too, because at this point we'd be beating a dead horse. And again, like I said, I understand the petulant way that Angie is thinking about this situation. That's all. Lisa has it, so I have to have it. That's all it is. So I would say the same thing. Like, okay, girl, maybe Lisa can do better. I'm sure she can. All of us can. So, boom. What'd she say? Food for thought. So we get the lunch with Justin and John. Extremely interesting to see like the husbands alone come together, like a one-on-one type of thing. So I'm like, okay. And to me, I think maybe, and I'll be honest, I'm probably biased because Justin turned me the hell off. But and you'll see from my tweets, I do feel like he came in with attitude. And I just don't think, I like feeling like he was owed something. Like that's just kind of what his demeanor gave me. And I like that they give their perspectives, but Justin was able to say, hey, if you took it as I was charging after your wife, then I can understand that. But I feel like he missed the mark. Like, you were being aggressive, which John later tells him, like, at the end of the day, it was weird that you had that level of aggression. Like, you could have defended your wife, but to be at that level and that fast, that was weird, my dude. And Justin's not really seeing it. And John's like, well, do you feel like you're in a position where maybe you may owe Lisa an apology? And, Justin's like, well, I got to think on that. So I'm like, I can respect him saying in the moment I have to think on that, fine. But it's clear that he never got anywhere on it. Because in his confessional, which was, I'm sure, filmed a while after, he's in his confessional saying that's how Lisa reacts all the time. So I don't know why I can't react that way. And I thought that we were adults. Like, well, Lisa does it, so why can't I? It's crazy. I hope that people are seeing this. It's crazy to see how many people on this cast, and then people not even on the cast. Justin's not even on the cast. He is a husband of. How many people on this show do this? Well, Lisa can do it. Why can't I? I just hope that we're clocking the insecurity there and the projecting. But I'm going to get back to it. So we're at BRONWYN's. We're getting BRONWYN and Heather. And I'm like, oh, this is the tea. And Heather is throwing shade the entire time that BRONWYN's giving this tour. I kind of like the house. I don't know that I would do it that way. I'm more of a neutrals girly. But I kind of like the house. But it is interesting to see that it was like a dog piss and poop everywhere. I'm like, okay. But that green couch that they sat on, that was stunning. So, they sit down, immediately they're at it. It seems like BRONWYN's coming in really, really nice, and Heather's coming in really, really guarded, I'll be honest. And she's like, well, I'm glad you came. I didn't think you'd come. And Heather's like, well, I'm surprised you invited me because I didn't think you liked me. And she's like, oh, well, we're giving that. So BRONWYN's like, well, I'm surprised that you came because I didn't think you liked me either. So I'm like, okay, like, which tune is this conversation going to go to? And out the gate, let's clock it, BRONWYN is apologizing because she's like, I can admit, like, I was being messy because I felt like you took our conversation and you told it to Whitney differently. So I responded and I was messy and I can take accountability for that. And I apologize. And I think that she was saying it like tongue in cheek because she's looking at it now like mess to mess. Like, she's looking to come to Heather and just be like, I see you, you see me. Like, let's just be messy, girl. Let's just do this. And Heather's like, No, because I'm not even on that same type of time with you. Like, because initially, like, Heather wasn't even being messy. Like, you came out the gate weird, and she took that information to Whitney. And because of that, you then decided, oh, she's construing something against me, and she told her something different. So now I'm going to be messy in response. You had that beef with yourself. So it's weird. Like, you can take accountability for it and you can apologize for it. That's awesome. But you've already admitted to me that you perceived this some type of way, and as a result you responded messily. Great. But now you want me to apologize for your misconception in the way that you perceived that incorrectly? You want me to apologize for my involvement in your delusion? What? Like, it felt like she was like, I apologize, I was being messy, but girl, now you got to give me something and we can move on. What? No, like, cause you're off track here, babe. Like, what? So definitely, it felt like she was trying to force an apology, and I'm like, I was honestly shocked by the way that Heather was just like not gonna play into it. She's like, girl, this is so disingenuous. Like, this is weird because it's obvious that you're trying to do a meeting of the minds off of some weird stuff, and I'm not on any weird stuff. You can be on weird stuff by yourself, but that's not where I'm at. Like, my perspective does not match yours, but you're trying to make it a kiki and a cackle and keep it moving. Like, I'm not moving like that with you. I don't trust you. I feel like you go to different people and say different things. Like, nothing about you is genuine. It's weird. Like, you're trying to put on a show. And she's like, girl, why am I even here? Why am I here? And she's like, well, what did you expect? Like, did you think that you were going to come in here and get an apology from me and not have to, like, own any accountability? And Heather's like, what are you talking about? Like, hold accountability for what? Like, I didn't go to Whitney to be messy. I went to Whitney because we don't know you. And she said it too. She's like, I don't really know the girls that well. I thought we were just talking about people in the car. Yeah, but you were being a bit of a mess when you talked about Whitney and you don't even know her. You just said it. You don't know her. It's not the same. And she also mentions to Heather, like, I am having this trip, and so I was considering if I needed to invite you or not, so that's why I really invited you here. And Heather's like, okay, girl, well, you're not trying to get into it. Like, you're not trying to have the conversation about what really happened, which is the fact that you just need to take accountability for being messy, and you should have just stopped there. Like, I don't agree with taking accountability for being messy and then being like, but you made me do it. Like, you made me be messy, so apologize. What? So I totally agree with Heather when she says that BRONWYN's just looking for a reason to be upset. Like I said, like, it's blatantly clear. And she's like, girl, I'm exhausted. I want to leave. Like, I'm over it. I can't. I gotta go. Boom, whatever. And BRONWYN literally still thinks that she deserves an apology. And that takes me back to BRONWYN, Whitney, and Angie just having these weird insecurities as it relates to Lisa. And really projecting it onto Lisa and projecting it onto Heather, right? Like, Angie said that thing she's trying to paint this narrative like, oh, well, Heather always wanted to be one of the cool girls. She'll just go along with the cool girls. So you're insinuating that she's just faking it to make it around Lisa because Lisa's one of the cool girls. Can we dissect that, please? Because that just shows so much insecurity about Angie. Like, you just feel insecure because Lisa is an it girl. So now every little thing that Lisa does, oh, let's make it an issue. She's a villain. And oh, if Heather's going along with Lisa and not agreeing with us, oh, she just wants to be up under Lisa. That's insecurity 101. I don't understand how the viewers are not seeing that. They're kind of falling into it, like I said, because Lisa can be annoying, Heather can be annoying. Got it. They can take their notes for sure. But everything that y'all give them, like I said last review, it's not that. Like, these are projected insecurities onto these women. This season, let's speak about isolated events. This season, what's happening right now, these ladies are projecting some serious insecurities onto Lisa and Heather. I'm just going to clock it. And I think it's going to come full circle. I think we're going to see this unfold in an interesting way. Because it always does. So, but I enjoyed the episode. And I will see y'all in the next one.